Hey, welcome! Today, we're diving into a book that makes a pretty bold claim that almost everything we think we know about the world is wrong. It's called Factfulness, and it uses hard data to show us that reality is way less dramatic and honestly a lot more hopeful than our brains want us to believe. So let's just jump right in with a quick question. What do you think has happened with extreme poverty over the last couple of decades? Has it doubled, stayed the same, or been cut in half? Take a second. What does your gut say? Go on, lock in your answer.
You ready? The correct answer is C. It has almost been cut in half. Now, if you're feeling a little surprised right now, you're in very, very good company.
In fact, when this question is asked around the world, less than 10% of people get it right. And we're not just talking about anybody. We're talking about world leaders, top journalists, even Nobel Prize winners. So what is going on? Clearly, it's not about being uninformed. So why are we all so wrong about something so fundamental?
Well, according to the author of Factfulness, Hans Rosling, it's not because we're dumb. It's because our brains are wired with these mental shortcuts. He calls them dramatic instincts. You know, these instincts were super useful back when we were trying to avoid lions on the savannah, but today they just end up twisting our perception of the modern world. They create this over-dramatic worldview that is just, well, it's stressful and it's flat out wrong.
So let's look at the first big instinct. It's called the gap instinct. This is that deep-seated temptation we all have to divide things into two opposing groups. You know, good versus evil, rich versus poor, us versus them. It paints this picture of a world completely split down the middle. But here's the thing. That picture is totally out of date. Rosling has this great analogy. He says using terms like developed and developing countries is like trying to find your way around a city today using a map from 1965. It's useless. The world has changed so much. That giant gap we imagine, it doesn't exist anymore. The vast majority of people are living in the middle.
So we need to throw out that old developed versus developing idea. Rosling offers a much clearer way to see things. 4 income levels. Now, level 1 is extreme poverty, and about 1 billion people live there. But look at this. A whopping 5 billion people live on levels 2 and 3. That's the middle. They're buying shoes, maybe a bike, they're getting their kids into school. And then there's level 4, where about 1 billion of us live with our cars and hot running water. You see, the world isn't 2 separate camps. It's one continuous spectrum of life.
The gap instinct is a big one, but it's not the only trick our brain plays on us. Oh no. We've got a whole bunch of these instincts that warp reality. Let's dig into 2 more: our obsession with bad news and our habit of thinking things will just go on forever in a straight line. Okay, take a look at this. This chart is the perfect medicine for our negativity instinct. That's our brain's tendency to notice bad things more than good things. Every time there's an earthquake or a hurricane, it's all over the news, right? So it feels like these things are happening more and more. But the data tells a completely different story. In the last 100 years, deaths from natural disasters have plummeted by over 75%. That's an incredible story of human progress that you almost never hear about. And then we have the straight line instinct. This is when our brain sees a line on a graph and just assumes it's going to keep going in that direction forever. Rosling uses this amazing and frankly hilarious example of his own grandson. You know, babies grow incredibly fast in their first few months. If you just drew a straight line from that growth, his grandson would be over 13 feet tall by the time he was 10. It sounds absurd, but we do this all the time with serious stuff, like world population. We assume it's just going to keep skyrocketing, but the reality is trends curve. They bend. They don't just go on forever. So, if we know our brains are hardwired to get things wrong, what do we do about it? How do we fight back? Well, this is where Rosling gives us a practical set of tools, a new mental habit he calls factfulness. It's all about building a worldview that's actually based on, well, reality. I absolutely love this definition. Notice it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's a stress-reducing habit. When you stop reacting to this dramatic, distorted version of the world you see in the news and instead rely on the facts, a lot of that anxiety just melts away. It's calmer. It's clearer. So to get started, here are 3 super simple rules of thumb. First, to fight that gap instinct, always look for the majority in the middle. Don't just focus on the extremes. Second, to counter the negativity instinct, just expect to hear bad news. Remember, slow, gradual improvement almost never makes the headlines. And third, to beat the straight line instinct, always remember that lines can be S-bends or slides or humps. They rarely stay straight. Look, Adopting this kind of fact-based worldview isn't something you do once. It's a practice. It means staying curious, being okay with saying, I don't know, and being willing to update your views when you get new information. So I'll leave you with this question. What's one fact you hold about the world that maybe, after hearing all this, you're willing to question today?